next item that we're going to be discussing is about Kill the Bill. This police bill that's been going through for quite some time, and we've been hearing about it from on earlier shows, had a big vote in the House of Lords this week, and I had to. I'm not a particular expert on all these procedures in Parliament, so I wanted to find out what actually happened and how things can be maybe taken apart by the Lords. So I spoke to Jenny Jones, Baroness Jenny Jones, who's actually a member of the Green Party, naughty me, and she gave this interview with me yesterday to explain everything that's gone on in the House of Lords. So I'm just going to play that interview now. Thank you for coming on. Could you tell us a bit about this police crime sentencing and courts bill that went to the House of Lords and that you debated in the House of Lords last week?
I don't want to dumb things down, but most people don't know how Parliament works generally. And so I'll give a little bit of explanation and then I'll talk about the bill specifically. But essentially, most controversial bills start in the Commons and they go through all their stages. They don't get much debate because, first of all, MPs are too busy. Secondly, there's an 80+ majority for the government. They don't want the bills discussed most of the time. And lastly, some of the bills are so dense that you really have to know your way around that particular issue. So the police bill started in the Commons, went through all its stages, and came to the House of Lords. Now, our job at the House of Lords is to look at it line by line, amend it and improve it where humanly possible. And to that end, we've got experts. We have ex-police, senior police officers, ex-QCs, legal people, but also people who know other aspects. For example, there's me who knows a fair about protest because I've been on so many. And the policing bill was a quite nasty bill. It tried to suppress any sort of disagreement with the government. And so we were already concerned about the bill. But during the passage of the bill, the government then dropped in some new amendments into the bill, even worse than the original bill, really repressive stuff on protest. The late amendments were particularly horrific, but when you have an amendment, the House of Lords can throw it out. It's not like the bill. It's actually quite difficult to change the bill because of that 80-seat majority in the Commons. But on these late amendments, we could just throw them out. And that's actually what we did. We threw out almost every one of those late amendments. And it was a very exciting night in the House of Lords. And one can't say that very often, when we had 14 votes and the government lost every single one. And sometimes we in the opposition were voting content, sometimes not content. It all got very confusing. And some of us actually lost track. And as the hours went past, and we didn't finish until 1 a.m. in the morning. And it was quite a night. I don't think there's ever been a time when the government lost 40. So it was all quite exciting, but it now has gone back to the Commons now that, or it will very shortly. When it gets back to the Commons, any amendments that we put in, and for example, making misogyny as a hate crime was one of our amendments, and so on. They can just take out those amendments. They can just strip them out. They don't even have to give a reason. And then they send it back to us. But the things that were late amendments from the government that we voted down can't come back except in a new bill. And that's absolutely crucial because then we can see the flagrant attempt to suppress protest.
The blow the government's had in the House of Lords, plus the amount of protest outside from different groups, do you think it might make the government rethink this bill at all, or do you think they're that dogmatic they'll push it through?
Well, you might as well ask me what the cat thinks, because the government is impenetrable to somebody like me. I can't understand how they think at all, but I would imagine it would be quite hard to bring back those most repressive anti-protest laws they were trying to push through. I imagine they're not going to try a new bill, but I don't know. One of the marked things about Monday night was that usually, if votes are held late at night, we have a lot of older members. They get tired and they drift away, essentially. They want to go home. They want, have some sort of semblance of life. When you're 80, you don't want to sit up until midnight trying to stop the government doing something. But the interesting thing was on Monday, because of all the protests, because of the people outside and the people who'd campaigned and sent emails and so on, that sort of rump of opposition that normally drifts away actually sat solidly in their seats. And so we discussed the bill from something like 4 o'clock in the afternoon until 1 a.m. and the vote held. And that was very unusual and absolutely fascinating. And the other thing is that the Conservative vote wasn't there. You've got to remember the Conservatives got something like 260 or 280 peers in the House of Lords, but they only got about 160 voting. And I think some Conservatives just didn't want to get involved in this, and that they thought it was a bad bill, and so they stayed away. And that is also very unusual, not to have a full turnout of Tories, because their whip is very strong and they usually stay.
Right, now that might have been a little bit parliamentary, but I think it was important for me anyway to understand where we are with that. We have with us two protesters who are outside, who have been protesting, about this bill for some time. One of them is Marvina Newton. Are you there, Marvina?
Yes, I am. Hi, everyone.
And you're from Black Lives Matter in Leeds. Are you, and also from the Kill the Bill
coalition
campaign?
Yes, I am. Kill the Bill official. I think it's so amazing to be in this space. I can see a lot of comrades. I can see a lot of conversations, but this win is our win for all of us. And we were drumming all the way till like 12 o'clock in the morning, making sure we let the Lords know that we were outside, just keeping that noise, and we're not going anywhere.
Wow, I didn't know you would. Right, that's great. And what do you think? Where we are now, do you think we can? Because it sounds from what she was saying that a lot of the Conservatives aren't that keen on it in the Lords, so it might be kind of worrying them that this bill will not work.
I think the first thing we need to do is really say a massive thank you to everyone, like everybody, for the parts that they played in this campaign. But I think what we've shown is given the country another sense of hope that the people united can never be defeated, sense of solidarity where they try to bury us and not know that we were seeds that were going to sprout even stronger. And we've got this amazing alignment of movements coming together. And if they try to do anything with this bill, we're just going to make it ungovernable. Simple. Because it's just like the poll tax, it's just like civil rights. And again, the importance of that day was MLK, Martin Luther King's Day. So again, that conversation on, imagine when I was standing outside and hearing that bill has been, and that amendment's in the bin, it just felt like the ancestors were with us, like telling us, all those on the left who fought for workers' rights, women's rights, racial justice, we're all there, like championing us to go through this. And yes, the fear was real, but the people were there. So it was so many amazing speakers. We were annoying. They said we are annoying. So we wanted to show them what annoyance was. We wanted to show them that our voices, you've not taken our voices yet. And I think we also need to highlight that this is not over yet. Part 4 of the amendment has gone through, which really puts the GRT community, the Gypsy, Traveller and Romani community in a really bad state. So this is almost like a cultural cleansing at this moment. So we need to start thinking about mobilizing to create a mass trespass, just like what happened in Glasgow when they tried to take the refugees and asylum seekers. We have to come out of the oppression Olympics. We're all in this together. They come for one of us, they come for all of us. We show them what our voices sound like. We showed them that we're not going anywhere, and being able to stand and be allies to each other in this moment in history can change things, from my point of view anyway. And hopefully, I think the country is saying the same thing.
Now, we also have on the call Paula Peters from DPAC to join us. Paula, are you there?
Hi, hello, morning, Crispin.
Now, Paula, are you? Let me just see if you're. There you are, Paula. So, Paula, were you there as well on the making all the noise on in the week?
Unfortunately, I wasn't able to be there, but everybody had my full support and solidarity. But looking
and can I just
through,
come in just quickly before you?
Go on.
Is it that you've been making a big campaign about making noise? That so when I saw the story about the noise,
yeah,
I thought of you because you've been flagging this up for some time now.
well, the thing is about, noisy protests. I mean, that's going back to the House of Commons, obviously, in this ping pong of the bill. And the government have already said that they're determined to overturn, what the Lords have said about, protecting noisy protests, that they want to overturn it when it comes back to the House of Commons. But I think it's really important to stress that the Lords didn't look at an awful lot of a good part of the bill, that the Gypsy, Roma and Traveller community, are still being criminalised. They're still going to be persecuted by the police for the right to roam and, live by the side of the road. And I think what Marvina said, about a mass trespass, I think that's really important to stress. But also, I think what a lot of people haven't talked about is the Lords watered down the level of prosecution under the Public Order Act of 1986, where the police used to warn you, what the, conditions of a protest were. You're going to be prosecuted for, if when conditions of a protest are going to be in place, you're going to be prosecuted for not knowing what they are. And but the police won't be telling you. And for disabled people, we use mobility equipment and wheelchairs, and we were concerned about our equipment being seen as lock-on devices and everything, and we use that equipment to live with our everyday lives. And also personal assistance. We've been on protests where some of disabled people's personal assistants have been arrested, and so that disabled person with high support needs has not been able to participate. What I'd say to everybody out there is, this is a massive attack on our freedom of speech and our right to protest. And for disabled people, being visible on the streets, fighting back is a way to use our voices and vocalise the horrendous harm this government have been doing to us for 11 years. And they, are trying to find ways to silence us to do that. And I'd say to everybody, we've got to continue the mobilisation around this bill and push this government back on it.
And the solidarity that was mentioned, Marvina mentioned, between the groups. I mean, it would be good if we could get a GRT speaker on as well for another show. But can you tell us what campaigns are being planned in the next few weeks, Marvina, and then Paula? Are you muted? There you go.
So in the next couple of weeks, we really need to start this cross-party conversation. We need to make sure we ensure that the whip can be used to ensure the protection of all constituents from the GRT community, whether they're in a fixed abode or driving to survive. We need to make sure that conversation happens. But also, I think presently we need to keep this lobby of tweeting to our MPs and our Lords, asking them to not fail the GRT community, but also lobbying them to accept the Lords' amendments that has obviously gone through. We need to write to the local council to ask them to provide a stopping place for GRT communities, and the government's intent of criminalizing them, it's not going to go through. But part of that also, we need people to sign the Liberty petition for the PCSE bill. We need to get it to 1 million. At the moment, it's 800,000 plus. before it goes to the House of Lords. But we need the unions. We need the unions to start mobilizing. We need Labour to start coming out in full force and publicly saying they do not stand for this bill. And the nationality and electoral bill. So just another thing, I want people to carry on educating themselves around the nationality and borders bill, the electoral bill, the judicial review bill, and the human right bill. These things are all interlinked. They're trying to distract us by the little parties that they're having in 10 Downing Street. We don't care about that. We care about these laws that are being passed. I think Priti Patel, I know one people saying they want to appeal to Priti Patel. I'm going to say this on this platform. Not all skin folks are king folks. If Priti Patel thinks she can get away with oppressing people that look like her and thinking they can use the voices of marginalized people constantly and putting them in this box, we are not standing for it. And I hope all our allies on the left come together and say exactly what it is. She is not, they are not fit for purpose. They shouldn't be governing. And Boris Johnson should retire. Like literally, he should be thrown out of the whole thing, because I don't even know why that man, who is a clown, I call it waste man, he shouldn't even be in the party. He should not even be anywhere to be allowed. My child, who is 10, can do better than Boris Johnson. And we need to be able to call it as that. And if those who are Tories know, they need to be able to come back to our side and understand that no matter whether you like Labour or not, that's the party for the people at this moment. But they still need, Keir Starmer needs to get his act together because he's messing it up for all of us. We just need to be able to call it as it is and do what we need to do. I hope I haven't triggered anybody, but solidarity to everyone that's here. Go to Kill the Bill official. You can find me on Majestic Marvina. I'm going to put some of the information. Please join the campaign. Mobilize with your unions. I'll give my details underneath. Let's see how we can work together. And it's time for us to just turn up on the streets. In February the 20th, when it goes back to House of Commons, I want to mobilize the biggest crowd in front of that space and letting them know that we're not going anywhere and this bill needs to be killed in its entirety.
February the 20th, yeah?
It seems like the dates. It seems like the dates. And keep watching the Kill the Bill official and keep saying Boris Johnson is a waste man, because he is. He is a waste man. And that's the way we need to go moving forward. Sorry, I know. I should be
okay. And Paula, have you got any actions you're planning in the next?
Oh, sorry, on the 27th, it's the Nationality and Borders Bill. It's going back into House of Commons, 27th of this month. So we're going to be outside. It's being done by the BAME lawyers. Please, if you can mobilize, let's make sure we do something around that, the Nationality and Borders Bill. Because someone like me can be made stateless and I could be stripped of my British nationality just because Priti thinks it's okay and just because my parents come from Nigeria. Sorry, you can't be doing that. This Great Britain is built on the backs of migrants and you can't choose what migrant stays or goes. And I want you to stand with us in that solidarity. Thank you.
All right. Well, I hope you can come back on again and tell us more, Marvin. Thanks for coming on. And Paula, do you have any actions that you're planning the next few weeks?
Well, obviously, you know, we're supporting Kill the Bill going forwards, and you know, the heinous Nationality and Borders Bill will be out supporting the BAME lawyers, because that bill is absolutely awful and we need to work together to throw that out as well. But we've got a message for Labour, and Crispin, am I allowed to swear on here, because this needs to be said in
only
a
if it's not
fashion.
the C word. And
It's not the C words.
didn't use the C word. Other than that,
No, it's not the C word. But this is a message to Keir Starmer and Yvette Cooper. Do your fucking jobs and oppose the horrendous police and crime bill and defend our right to protest. And that's a message from the messengers, because we've had enough of Labour sitting on the fence and doing nothing. So do your fucking job, Labour, and oppose this bill and get it thrown out. That's a message from DPAC.
Oh, thank you, Paula. You wouldn't get this on the Andrew Marr show.
Thank you for letting me say it.
Thank you, Paula, and thank you, Marvina.